Hey all folk, what you're about to see is a recording from an interview with Andy Boyd from some months back. Life got in the way and I just got finished editing this to encourage people to create stuff for the Midnight Muscadines game jam going on right now. I also realized during editing that I mispronounced Muscadines the entire time during the interview. Sorry Andy for that. This is my first interview in this style, focusing on the person behind the design and exploring the game mechanics with the creator itself. Let me know what you think and if you want to see more of it. Now, let's get the interview started.
My name's Andy Boyd. I am the owner of Pandion Games, and I started the company back in 2021 with just a little small game that I posted up on itch.io, and we just went full-time in January this year, which is pretty exciting.
Living the dream.
Yeah.
Nice. I wanted to sort of highlight some of the cool things I have found out while reading through it and your games. So, well, you have already told me a bit about who you are and your company. Are you mostly a game designer, a writer? What would you classify yourself as?
So I mostly do the game design, layout, and the bulk of the writing. I really am a project manager. I hate saying that. Like, I came from like corporate and like IT job, and so project manager is like a bad.
Same here. IT shop, corporate, project manager, all of them.
Yep, exactly.
I get you.
So, like, I was a senior systems administrator for higher ed and like K-12, like primary schools. So I worked a lot in education, but also I did my stints over in corporate as well. But your question, sorry, I got way off track.
No, you are doing really well. It's just mostly what it is that you do in the company. You told me that you were a writer, a layout designer, and all sorts of stuff, writing as well.
Yeah, I'm really so the start of it is kind of like it's a one-person shop. It's still a one-person shop, but I'm now at the point where I can like bring in freelancers fairly regularly and have like kind of a core group that I trust, where I can reach out and be like, hey, I've got this new idea. Here's the ideation document. Like, here I've got written. And so like I've got an artist and editor. We've recently just started working with a community manager, and that has been absolutely amazing because I'm actually like kind of a loner and shy, surprise IT person that likes, tabletop role playing.
It happens.
It happens.
It's sort of a stereotype.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So like we're able to start bringing in, more people, not necessarily regularly, but for project work. And so like, that's why I always use the like inclusive we, like, because there are a ton of people that help with Pandion Games and make these games a reality. I'm just the only one actually on the payroll.
You told me a bit about how the Pandion Games itself sort of came to be. But now, what made you jump from having your own regular day shop, to going into Pandion Games?
So there was a lot of things. One, I grew up creative, so I was always in art classes, and even when I was in college, I was going on like the art track and the fine art and drawing and illustration and creative writing, and I've always written short stories. But for money, in order to feed myself, I started IT work very, very young, at about 12 years old. And yeah, like my first paid IT gig, I think I was 14, but I had kind of like started like just working with like mentors basically when I was about 12. But yeah, at 14, I worked for a little local library, and I was kind of their IT guy, fixing their computers and writing 5-year plans and stuff like that. It was crazy that I could do that back then.
Yeah.
But so I went deep into IT, which is in some ways creative, but really, yeah, it's very technical. Like it's kind of the opposite of creative.
Exactly. It has a lot of creativity involved to it, mostly on the engineering sort of side of things.
Yeah.
But at the
That's
same
a lot
time,
of problem solving.
exactly, which you need a lot of creativity for it. but at the same time there's a lot of very structural and one single way in which things are done.
So it was one where it's like, so I've been in IT for over 20 years, and I was like, I've got to do something different. Like it became soul sucking basically.
I feel you strongly.
And I had no idea what to do for the longest time. Now I was like, I want to do something else, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to break into any other industry because I've just been doing this since I was a kid. And I ended up basically releasing Quest, the adventure, the TTRPG Quest.
Yeah.
I was releasing like character cheat sheets for that, and I posted it up on itch.io and for free. And somebody gave me a $2 tip like a week after I posted it, and I was like, wait a second.
There's something
you
here.
Can make money doing this. And so it was that $2 tip. I someday I've got to go look back at whoever that was and like go give them a proper thank you, because that's really what sparked it, where I was like, oh, people will give me money to make tabletop stuff. Can I do this? And that kind of is what really got the ball rolling. Like I got a mentor that already knew how to do TTRPGs and asked him to like dev edit with me while also like asking me questions, kind of like really like teaching me.
Okay.
And then just kind of like grew from there.
May I ask who this person is?
Yeah, it's Matt Sanders.
I
believe Sanders. He's doing, Matt, right?
I know Matt. I have never met them.
Back in 2021, he had put out a call and he was like, hey, like, I will do some dev edit and like, simple stuff for new creators, for something crazy cheap. And I had been writing games for like 3 months, and I was like, hi, I'm one of those people. I had no idea who Matt Sanders was. And he was like, yeah, let's chat. And
let's do it.
6 or 8 months where we were just bouncing ideas back and forth, and he was, questioning why I was doing things the way I was doing.
Mentorships are great.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Now, we are starting to get into the whole part of creating your own games and sort of that kind of stuff. So, I wanted to go a bit deeper into that by asking you, what is your favorite game, and which one is it that you find the most inspiring or that marked you the most? Notice that I'm not saying TTRPG, so it could be any kind of game.
I have multiple answers. First off, I grew up, a lot of my current game design and ideas come from early point-and-click adventure video games. So LucasArts,
amazing.
The Longest Journey, Grim Fandango, Monkey Island, Loom, right? Like all of these games, Psychonauts, drastically influenced me from a story and narrative perspective. I would say Wander Home by J Dragon was a very, very early influence as to, hey, we don't have to do traditional like hack and slash. Everything has to have a stat. Everything has to have, equipment tables. So I took a lot of Wander Home with me still to this day. And then just from like sheer enjoyment of playing it, I don't know why I am such a huge fanboy of Mouse Ritter.
Mouse Ritter is an amazing game.
So much.
It's very well designed, and the fact that you play as a small mouse in a gigantic world sort of creates a new perspective to things.
Yeah.
So you can see a broom as something you can climb on, or a kitty as a huge menacing monster.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I love that, and I oddly love the gameplay. It's one of the reasons why I think my most current game is kind of shifting. It used to be, our earlier games were very, very heavily narrative and mechanics light, and I think on this version, like with Substratum Protocol and now Midnight Muscadines, is like you're seeing this shift of like, what if we took something like Wander Home, but then we kind of like mashed a little bit of Mouse Ritter in there a little bit, and like let's throw in a deck of cards, right? Getting a little bit more mechanical with it all, but still keeping that foundation of like, we don't need like heavy combat, stat blocks everywhere.
No, and the more you say all of this stuff, I am starting to see how this all connects with each other after reading the whole game. And yeah, it's very cool how you took inspiration from all those things. If you take into consideration both Midnight Muscadines, Wonder Home, Mouse Reader, all of these sort of have some sort of maybe family friendly or inclusivity to them all. So that's something that I really noticed that you pull out a lot in your company and with Midnight Muscadines. So I want to ask you, why is it that you sort of tailor your games for new players and for this sort of whole inclusivity? Is there a reason behind it all?
Yeah, so I think part of it is when I was growing up, I was surrounded with kind of the like heavy metal, death metal, goth, think like Shadow Dark and all of that, right? And that's kind of what I was surrounded with, to the point where I was kind of put off to it. Like I'm like, cool, I don't need grunge. The world is grunge enough.
Yeah.
I want to go escape somewhere, and I still want there to be drama and excitement and cool things, but I want like Treasure Island excitement, right? It doesn't have to be, right? You're still worrying about scurvy and there's pirates and there's all this, but it's also like there's an air of fun to it, right?
Exactly.
Like, hey,
sort of
also
like
a little campy.
Pirates of the Caribbean in a way that has all that drama, all that darkness to it, but at the same time it's very sort of silly in its own way and has that sort of comedic aspect to it.
And there, even though like some of my games, you kind of like peel back some of that, campiness, and you're like, oh wow, this is actually a really violent kind of, sad horror game. But we take the corners off of it a little bit, and we go, you can engage with the darkness as much as you want, or you can just kind of ignore it for a second and have, laugh and have fun.
Exactly, in a similar manner to how many sort of the new kind of cartoons that are starting to appear, like Gravity Falls or
Owl House.
Owl House, yeah, there are many of those sort that have a lot of depth and darkness to them if you start to explore them. Yes. But if you look at them from outside, it's all very fun, it's all very silly, campy. It's only when you start to go deep into it that if you want, you can find those sort of things. And I really noticed those same things happening when I read through Midnight Muscadines. So why not let's jump right into it without the questions here. First and foremost, do you want to give me some sort of elevator pitch about what Midnight Muscadines is?
Oh, perfect.
This is no elevator.
Midnight Muscadines is a game of magical jam and preserving magic in a world that is off balance. At its core, that's what it is. The sun has been shattered. The god of night, the goddess of night, has been slain. The god of light, in their anger, shattered the sun and ended up in a battle, getting captured and imprisoned generations ago. And now we're living in this world. Thank you.
The lore is really cool.
In this world, generations later, where everything's kind of normalized, but everywhere you look is the echoes of what your ancestors have done.
The traces left.
Yeah, and so you have this little pocket world called Nim that is illuminated by the last remaining sun shards, and a whole civilization has flourished under these shards, but the last remaining vestiges of magic are concentrated in these grapes, Midnight Muscadines, muscadines being a grape. And so your guild, Marmoteers, that's what characters play, are preservers of these grapes, and so they have to strike out into the Wildernite, which is the twilight, the dark area of the world, which is the majority of the world at this point, and find, harvest, collect, and bring back to Nim these grapes, distill them down, preserve them, make them into jams, and that's where the magic of all of Nim comes from, is now from this jam. It's how the beacons that carry the sun shards stay afloat. That's how any magic in this world still exists. So yeah, that is my extended elevator pitch.
Okay, it's a long elevator. For all those who don't know, Midnight Muscadines is mostly a GM-less game. So you can play just like Wonder Home or many of the other sort of GM-less games that exist. You can play with a GM and narrate your own story among the many players there at the table. So, I wanted to ask you, because GM-less games have this complexity, most of them already use some sort of engine in order to make them work. Now, Midnight Muscadines develops their own sort of new engine to make sure that the story and the narration goes in a way that each sort of cog of the machine spins very well into each other, forming the session itself. Would you like to tell me a bit about how it is that you make the game work easily and fluidly to carry on the story without a GM?
Yeah, so the system's based in Songs and Sagas, which is made by Fire RPGs. RP, he's an amazing designer. And so we started with that base. And one of the things that we really worked on tweaking was we took everything that a GM might do and we kind of gave it to the players. So the way that players roll and interact, the way that adversaries or challenges occur is, the player is still rolling. They're the ones making the actions. And we basically made it so the GM is just an interpreter and narrator. And so they don't really have much that they do mechanically. And by doing that, you've kind of made it so you can take that role and it goes, well, who wants to narrate? Who wants it, right? Because the players are already doing all the work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the players are flipping the cards. They can look at the tables if they want to look at the tables. They can, in the card decks that we designed as well, which are optional, are going to have like prompts and things for characters to do or things for players to do that are like GM-like actions.
There are so many tables, and this game, it's amazing. I just love random tables, so I was having a blast reading through all of them.
Nice. So every town in the setting guide will have 3 D6 tables that each one's going to have like a small paragraph in it for people, encounters, locations. They'll have a write-up. So like there's going to be tables everywhere. There's encounters everywhere. There's just basically, if we want this to be able to be a solo game or a GM-less game, we needed to give players enough content where if they get stuck, they can get unstuck easily and quickly. Because sometimes inspiration runs out, especially when you're doing solo play and you don't have, you can't bounce ideas off of another person. We needed the book to act as that other person.
Now that you mentioned the cities as well, one thing that I noticed that is really cool about this game is that it always encourages you to create your own thing, your own world. But at the same time, you provide lots of elements that you can easily grab and put in your own game to sort of have that part of the whole narration and creation easier for you. Maybe you don't have to worry too much about the cities or the NPCs or whatever it is. Do you have some sort of reasoning why you decided to leave both things as ways to go?
Yeah, so we actually split it a little bit further than that even. So NIM itself is where the setting guide really is known. The entire book is written from the perspective of NIM. So the Wildernite is this unknown thing out there. It's, there's unreliable narrators. Everything could be built by the characters or the players themselves. And so we left the Wildernite fairly sparse. We're going to give an adventure. We give, I think, 5 or 10 setting locations for the entire world of the Wildernite. But then otherwise, a lot of our tables are dedicated to generating things in the Wildernite. And we did that on purpose, where NIM is a great place where you're like, I want to be handheld. I want to have as much information as possible. I just want to be able to go on an adventure and have 40 pages dedicated to helping me. Or do you want to strike out into the unknown and create your own thing? Then you can go out into the Wildernite. Nothing's written. There's, very, very few things. There's hints given to you for like vibes and like, there's these creatures, but
you found a cool middle point within explaining too much and explaining very little. So you just say enough to spark imagination, which is always something that I find really cool to create as a designer myself as well on my games. That it's just finding the right spot and you nail it perfectly throughout the part of Nim. So
I appreciate that.
Now, taking this into consideration, we are sort of talking about how you can create and explore all this world. Do you have some sort of idea of how long you expect campaigns or sort of games to last in your system?
So that was something that I thought a lot about. So this will be one of my first games where you can run kind of a forever campaign if you wanted to with it. Because we have given so much tools and so much depth to the world, you're welcome to go strike out. We have a leveling system that just kind of continues on, but that doesn't necessarily have this huge power spike like we see in some other tabletop role-playing games. But generally, the adventures that we are including in this expect to be about 2 to 5 sessions long, and then we also are going to have just a bunch of one-shot content. So you can kind of do like 1990s episodic television sessions with it. So you can just be like, hey, we're going to meet every week and we're just going to be doing a brand new one-shot, still in the same, you might meet some of the same characters again, some of these other things might occur, but
so it's like a TV show,
not necessarily a continuous. Yeah, it's a TV show, and we might have an overarching storyline might appear at some point.
Yeah.
So we really set it up to kind of be like, here's enough to really get you going. Maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 one-shots, and you take on one of the bigger adventures, and then your characters are really sparking ideas, and then you can dive into a campaign if you want to.
Midnight Muscadines doesn't go into one single genre, so you can go into very different sort of stories through it, which gives a lot of potential for story creation, and you can even change GMs while playing throughout the different weeks and narrate different stories while using the same NPCs or continuing this overarching plot, as you were saying. But then there is when you start to go into this very interesting narrative device, which at the same time is one of the main focuses of the mechanics, which is the magic sham.
Yes, so I wanted a magic system. This is the first time I've ever really delved deep into a magic system, but I wanted it to be narrative. I wanted the actual spells that come out of it, and the effects of those spells to be controlled by the characters and their imagination. And I didn't want to have to write 50,000 spells.
Yeah.
So, what we did instead was you can find ingredients, and all of these ingredients have a description. They have both a magical description and a physical description associated with them. And when you put them in your jam jar, you can take the words from the descriptions and mash them together in whatever way you want to then determine what that spell does.
Yeah, you create a spell of your own in a way. It's very cool.
Yeah. And what it reminds me of is like the refrigerator magnets that has all the words.
Yeah.
And you can like rearrange the words in the refrigerator magnet.
Oh,
that's
I didn't
what you're
notice
doing with the 2 ingredient descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
You're like pulling that down. And then when you add a third ingredient in, you can add up to 4. When you add a third ingredient in, you take your existing spell that you've created, and you take the new description and you add those words together. And then you have your next. And we encourage people to like interpret the meaning of the word.
They're very open-ended words.
Yeah, and there was a lot of times where we've gone back to the descriptions of ingredients, and we were like, oh no, that could be, you described to basically be a weapon of mass destruction. Let's change that word, right? Mm-hmm. And so we tried to be careful with what words we use, but at the same time, we want people to have fun and do crazy, silly stuff with these descriptions that we have never thought of. And so there was also plenty of times where I was just like, I don't know what people are going to do with that, but it will probably be interesting, so we're going to leave it alone.
Yeah, well, reading through it, I couldn't help myself but to imagine. I don't know if you have played Legend of Zelda, the Tears of the Kingdom, when you can create your own machines in different ways using all these different sort of gadgets or machines or whatever. There's that sort of exploration aspect in the Magic as well. Whereas in other games you may have predetermined or predefined spells, you can create your own, and there's also that sort of exploration aspect and problem solving as well. Because if you find yourself in front of a problem, you can try to sort of say, hey, maybe we can create a spell that solves this. And then you have to look for the ingredients. That's very cool design.
Yeah, one thing I really wanted people to be able to do, so as it stands, when you collect ingredients, the ingredients are random. You don't get to pick the ingredient. Mm-hmm. However, if you're just out foraging, right? And so one of the things I wanted people to do is, like, I have this ingredient pouch. I randomly ingredient hunt. I have found all these different things, and having people go, okay, hold on, okay, I've got this, and I've got this. I combine it in this way. Ooh, it could do this, right? Or they could say, I really need dusk mint right now because it has this one word that I need to do this other thing that I can't find anywhere else. And you go, okay, well, you got to go either find a merchant, or you here's this ability lets you collect a special one, or maybe the difficulty for the check is just kind of high, and you've got to be able to hit it, right? Mm-hmm. In order to find that dusk mint. And so, like, just people, like, interacting with that and fiddling with it.
And I feel that I haven't played it yet, but I get the feeling that much in the same vein as when you're playing a GM-less game in which everyone is sort of participating on what your own character can do to make some sort of cool story moment happen. Maybe when you're creating a spell, everyone can collaborate in saying, hey, maybe you can use that, and get those aha moments in which you say, oh, damn it, maybe you can do this as well.
Yes,
that's
we encourage that, like, in the rule set, where we specifically are like, work with the table. Like, it's okay if you're, like, drawing a blank on how these combine, or, you know, somebody else might be like, hey, did you know that this word can also mean this? And they're like, oh, wait a minute, right?
Yeah,
like, that's what I want.
Do you have some sort of memory or example of one very cool unexpected spell that someone created?
My adventure writer, Alan Hall, actually created one where I was like, oh crap. And so when he was creating NPCs, whenever there would be a spell or a magic spell in some capacity, he actually would select the ingredients and make the spell make sense to the ingredients, and then we would name it whatever the spell is. And he came up with I would have to look up what all they were, but it's basically a spell that would allow somebody to teleport a sun shard to another reality.
Okay, that sounds...
And it basically opens a rift.
That sounds terrifying.
I was like, holy cow, you've got to be kidding me. And it took 4 ingredients for him to get there. So not only is it just, like, a crazy spell in the first place, it's one of the most powerful spells you can have already. So it has I think a D10 die associated with it.
There's a lot of
whenever
potential.
You're rolling, it's happening, right? It's crazy. So I think that one was probably one of my more surprising ones, where I was just like, I didn't even think about being able to create this massive rift into another reality because of these different things, and, like, it was really cool.
Okay, I don't know if you've ever heard of this game called Scribble Notes.
I've heard of it. I've never played it.
Okay, so just to give you the gist of it, you have some sort of level that you have to solve a video game. I think it was only on the DS, I'm not sure of it, but you could sort of write your own word of what you want to summon into the level. So that gives you endless amount of possibilities of what you can do in there, because you can maybe create a dog, or you can create a huge bot, or even a black hole, and whatever you create interacts with the level. And there are always more some powerful options more than others, because that happens when you're in a video game. But those sort of things may work very differently on a TTRPG, because everyone at the table sort of have this sort of they want to find some balance in the game. Do not create something entirely broken, because if not, you are just making the story very dull. So yeah, when you were talking about this creating the rate, I just couldn't help but think about that as well.
Well, and so speaking of balance, that was actually a really big concern of mine, because initially we were putting like mechanics into the spell descriptions and things like that, where it's like add DR and maybe you give yourself fire resistance or something. And what we ended up doing is everything in the spell descriptions are more narrative based, right? It's like conceal yourself from other beings, but it's not a +1 to stealth checks or anything like that. It's the power of the dice that has you how powerful the spell is. And so one ingredient's a D6, and then you have a D8, a D10, D12, etc. And you still have to roll your check for see how well something happens, or if while you're using that spell it does the thing that you want it to do. You still have to roll your check, and it's going to be a D6 to a D12. And then if you have cards in your hand, because you have failed a bunch, so you're already failing a crap ton, you're going to have cards. Yeah, and then the cards can be used to either add additional dice to the pool to roll for your checks, or you can improve your spell in some way. So for instance, if your spell says it can levitate a small object, you could burn a card and say, I want to levitate a medium-sized object or a large-sized object, right? And not actually touch the dice at all. You're like, I want the effect of the spell to be larger. So I'm going to burn cards to do that. Or my spell says precipitation, or it says rain. I'm going to burn a card, and instead of rain, it's hail. It's frozen rain.
Gives you even more flexibility.
Yeah, so the cards let you do these little tweaks, and you get the choice of like, okay, I need more dice because the difficulty is really, really high that I'm trying to achieve. Or you're like, I just need to tweak my spell a little bit narratively to achieve the thing that I want to do, right?
Okay.
So you have that flexibility there.
I love how you're getting there into the whole way of why you decided to design it that way. Because I really like asking people mostly about the design thoughts about stuff. So now that we are getting into cards as well, why is it that you decided to have both dice and cards in the game, which are both two different ways of creating random numbers in a way?
Yeah. So I love cards and design. Probably more than dice, because a single card draw gives you a suit, a value, and a color.
Yeah.
Right. So you can have a binary choice, red versus black. You could have a basically a D4, right? Like, and then you also have a 13.
A D12, in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, basically a 13, a D12. And so it gives you a huge flexibility, and then I can now say, draw one card and queue off of these two things on these two different tables, or they're so flexible, and I absolutely love it. But the other cool thing is it's easy for players to take that card if they beat it or won it or whatever, and hold it and take another one and take another one and take another one, and then use them later for something else. I first started that design in Substratum Protocol, where it was specifically the players could use cards to power their exosuit. And then I kind of took that into Midnight Muscadines and said, okay, well, what if we used it to improve magic, improve their rolls, improve their protection, but you have to get rid of that card in order to do it. And so it's this resource that you only gain by failing. So you only gain a card on setbacks. And so these cards are kind of let you fiddle with and improve your chances of success, improve your ability to do things, because you have taken a setback, because there has been additional drama placed on you, and complications have come up around you. The more complications you have that occur, the more resources you get to make sure that complications don't happen again in the future.
You're always failing forward, in a way.
You're failing forward, exactly.
Cool.
So even when you fail, you're given a resource to let you do really cool things later. And so failure doesn't really feel that failure.
No, there's always something to get out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And as part of all of this as well, is there some sort of, we have sort of touched on this before, but for Midnight Muscadines precisely, is there some sort of game, a TTRPG that you have taken the most inspiration from when you came up with this idea for the game?
Oh, well, so it was a book that gave me the most idea for the game.
Okay.
It is a graphic novel called Lightfall, and it really set the tone and the mood, and that initial idea of a god of sun that shattered the sun. That concept, along with just really the vibe of the game, came from Lightfall. And it's one where I picked it up randomly and just absolutely fell in love with it. It sparked a world building kind of exercise for me before Midnight Muscadines was even a thing.
Yeah.
And then I designed the spell mechanic during a game jam, and I was like, what do I do with this? This is really cool. And I was like, wait a minute, I've been writing, I've got 15,000 words worth of, world building exercises that I've been doing. What if this is perfect? Let's put these two.
Let's combine them, yeah. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that you're naming the game jams as a way to sort of try to playtest in a way a mechanic that you're building as a designer. That's something that I've done as well in the past that I absolutely recommend for everyone out there. It's always great fun. Start with something small and then go bigger. The more you can play test it and sort of delve into it. And I don't know if the idea of the cards was something that you started the game with, or if that's something that came along down the line as you kept progressing with the idea of the design of it.
So Songs and Sagas, I believe, has card mechanics built into it. However, I've been doing, they weren't used the way I'm using them. Look at that, because Magic didn't exist. But I've been interested in playing with cards and for a while now. And so my previous game, Substratum Protocol, kind of gave me the baseline for using cards in a mechanically interesting way rather than just drawing them on tables. And so this is kind of an iteration on that of okay, how do I implement cards even more into the game system? Mm-hmm. And so every time I design a game, I have an idea that I'm really in love with. Usually it's cards or diceless mechanics or something, or degrading dice. And I go, okay, this is the first time I've done this. Let's keep it fairly simple. And then the next game I go, okay, that was really cool. How do I integrate it even more into this game? And so Midnight Muscadines is kind of the culmination of degrading dice and card mechanics and GM-less and narrative play. This is I think title 8 or 9 that I've published, games that I've published. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I'm now at a level of game design where I'm like, this is the game that all of those other games I was just kind of testing stuff with.
Yeah.
This is the culmination.
Would you call this your magnum opus in a way?
Oh,
that's a big term. But...
Yeah, it is. I would say currently, yes.
Currently. That's a good way of phrasing it.
Yeah, I think this will be the biggest and most profound game I have ever written. There's so many ideas that I couldn't fit into this book that I've already got. I keep a list. I keep a list of just oh man, I want to do a tea house expansion where there's mechanics and there's a whole setting around just running a tea house. I would love to make that because this game's perfect for that.
So you're making expansions, cool. Yeah, because I think I'm seeing the different kind of ingredients that you can find in the game. I couldn't help but think there's surely some way to add even more to all of this, and players can even create their own ingredients if they wanted to.
Yep.
There's a lot of modularity to it as well.
Yes. Well, so for instance, with you bring up ingredients, which is a great point. So our ingredients are all plant-based ingredients that you can find. They're all fruits and maybe leaves, maybe roots, right? But I actually mentioned in the untested ingredients, I'm like, there's a lot of flora and fauna ingredients that you can put. So we haven't even touched on like what happens if you put, you know, a glass hare's fur into your jar. What effect does that have? What if you take the antlers from a blood elk and you shave some of that off and you put it into your jar? What happens? We don't touch on animal ingredients at all.
I was planning on asking you that, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole world of possibilities that we are then.
Oh, yeah. But it's just one where it's just like, I just had to get done writing 52 ingredients, and we wanted it to be able to be played with cards, so I didn't want to go over 52. And I was just like, I'm just getting through plants. I don't have room for animal, and the book page count doesn't have room for another.
No. And you have so many, and the art is gorgeous. By the way, for each of those, you go through all of the art pieces, and you instantly want to get one of those just for yourself to eat. But
no,
put into a jar as well.
Our artist has done a fantastic job. He makes amazing art. I'm very, very lucky to be able to work with him.
Cool. Okay. And now, as we are sort of reaching into the later part of this interview, I want to ask you, because the game focuses a lot on it being a cozy sort of horror or dark game.
Yeah.
So, which sort of mechanics is it that you establish in order to make it sure that all sort of stories end up in some sort of cozy or a cozy note to end the session?
Yeah. So the main mechanics, instead of revolving around rolling dice in order to see if you hit or what have you, revolves around, you need a number of successes. You need to beat a difficulty and gain a number of successes to achieve the outcome that you're looking for. And that can be anything from fording a river to, debating with a pie vendor to give you a free slice of pie, to trying to calm down an angry patron, to actually going toe-to-toe with an electrified glow bearer, or right, like all of that is a similar mechanic where you're saying, I'm trying to do this thing, here's how I'm doing it, I'm rolling my dice, I might step my dice up or down depending on how effective I am, how impactful my action is on the situation, and then I need a certain number of successes, and if I get setbacks, then negative things happen back to me, or maybe I don't achieve the goal, right? Like the pie vendor says, get the hell out of here, or I'm calling the town guard
authorities,
being a nuisance, right? Like all that stuff, right? And then we couple that with the idea of conditions, and conditions are these like negative narrative things that attach to you as a character. They actually consume inventory slots and can like kick items out of your inventory to be lost as an additional like you messed up. And initially conditions are usually like you're exhausted, you're poisoned, you're wounded, right? Like those are classic conditions for adventuring parties. But we added more in as to our examples, such as homesick, overwhelmed, you've become fragile, right? Because you're just you can't take anymore. You're starstruck. You're not thinking straight because you see somebody that is very important to you, or maybe they're a celebrity in your guild, and you've become starstruck, and you're just like, they can convince me of anything.
Yeah,
I'll believe in.
You're fangirling right there.
Right, exactly. And so like we've got both of these like classic, like you're out adventuring, and yes, danger can happen, harm can happen, and then these cozier, just like you're charmed, or you're starstruck, or maybe you're melancholic. Maybe you showed up to the tea house today and it was closed down, but you know what, you just really needed that cup of tea, and you take a melancholic condition that impacts you in some way, and you're sad.
Yeah.
Right? You're just sad. And
You can play around a lot with it as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And those are just the example ones. Like
Mhm.
conditions are ones where we say you apply this as it makes sense, and you can pick whatever that word is and whatever that effect is, and then we give you 20 examples to just play with. But I think one of the things, like people, I think sometimes are like, okay, cozy means you're not going to be doing anything. You're going to be sitting in a library on a big chair that has beautiful string lights reading a book. And it's like, well, no, it's a vibe. It's a vibe. It's a whole vibe of, I consider Over the Garden Wall to be cozy.
Yeah, it is.
It's also dark. It's also
in many ways, yeah.
Story. Yeah. And so I feel like Midnight Muscadines has that coziness and that darkness a lot like Over the Garden Wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And on top of it all, in the same vein as episodes in a TV series like Over the Garden Wall, you provide in here something that is very unique, maybe in its own way, because it being a GM-less game, you sort of always are developing your own story that you create out of thin air in a way. But at the same time, you have your own sort of modules or adventures that you include within the book that make it work in a way that you can explore sort of already written narratives, but leaving a lot of open space for exploration. Do you want to talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so there's 3 different kinds of adventures that we include. One of them is like, it's a pre-written adventure, right? It's classic OSR, NSR style, here's your adventure, right? And then we have what we call our mysteries. And our mysteries are, here's an opening introduction, basically your adventure hook. And then we have, I think, like a D12 table or D10 table of events that occur that you can just build upon, right? And they're a sentence or 2 long. And then we have clues that you can discover as to figure out what's going on, or, potentially what's happening next. And the idea behind, winning is, after you gain a certain number of clues, you have to use every clue that you have to string together some sort of answer, but you have to use every clue.
Yeah.
And that answer is correct, but you have to have a minimum number depending on the complexity of the adventure that you're on. And so you have to then do a number of events, right? That kind of thing.
So there's no set answer to the mystery.
There is no set answer, right? And so depending on what you've done, the events that you uncovered, and the clues that you gathered, you then take those clues and you string them together with the context that you have, and you've made an answer, and then you can continue adventuring to resolve that problem.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot about Brindle Bay, that I don't know if you've taken some inspiration from when creating this. But the whole idea of having your own clues and solving the mystery in your own way, that will create an entirely different story for everyone who plays the same mystery, is just incredible in the way that you can just go with someone else that played it and compare your results and be fascinated by how different they can be, just because you are different people that think differently.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Well, so the mysteries are actually based on, I have another system that has spawned many games at this point, called Hints and Hijinks. And it is our mystery system, and it's built for solo play, and it is events and clues and rolling dice, and except it's a little bit more limited, and that's like, you visit 10 locations, you resolve it. If you resolve the event at that location correctly, you gather a clue. But I think we currently publish sorry, my books are right here. I think 5 Hints and Hijinks games, and I'm working with third-party creators that aren't interested in publishing, to be like, hey, you have a really cool Hints and Hijinks game, I would love to publish it. And so the mysteries within Midnight Muscadines are kind of based loosely on the Hints and Hijinks system. Now,
That.
the Hints and Hygiene system is also based on Brindlewood Bay.
Okay, so
Right.
there's
So
a whole
there are
layers of
connections.
inspiration. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll have to take a good look at that system in that case. I love those sort of mysteries, even though I've never managed to play one myself. So I'll make sure
I'll send you some.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely. But we have one more adventure type that's called festivals. And festivals are other one-shots, but they are more like the beach episode in an anime or
I've seen
shopping episode, right? And they are much longer descriptions. There's events going on that you can participate in, maybe a game, some mini games that you can play. There's drama unfolding around you that's related to it. But there's no clues to gather. It is more of this like wholesome, like we're all celebrating, but there's drama happening at the edges, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, somebody stole the lanterns before, before the lantern festival. We've got to go find them. Things like that. So between the mysteries and the festivals, we're going to have 10 of them. So these kind of like one-shots that you can do. And then we'll have 3 classic adventures, all within the book.
A lot of variety. Okay, that's fascinating. See, giving you a lot of flexibility and ideas to play when you don't want to play your regular sort of game. You just go in and say, hey, let's do a shopping episode because we have survived a lot of traumatic stuff in the last session.
Yep, exactly.
I don't know if there is something else that you want to highlight about your game before we start to close off this interview.
No, just that I think even though we talked a lot about the mechanics and the card systems and how that all the different things you can do with that, we've built the system in such a way that getting nitty-gritty with optimizing or maybe bringing a card to do something different or how you do your jam, it's all kind of optional. And so you can engage at whatever level that you're interested in. At the end of the day, if you just want to show up and you want to roll 2 dice, add it together and see if you beat the number, that's all you have to do. But if you want to start getting into, well, I want to increase my impact die, and I want to take this modifier, and I want to use these narrative like effects to do this, and then roll, and you can do all of that. Or here's all these abilities, and oh, these 2 abilities work really well together, and so I'm going to do that. And right, it's all there, but you don't necessarily have to engage with it and really, because everybody engages with games at a different level. You don't want something that's too crunchy or a medium crunch. Some people really like the lightweight narrative where they're not worrying about the mechanics. And so we kind of tried to structure it in such a way where if all you want to do is show up and roll pairs of dice, that's as complicated as you have to get with it.
Yeah. So it's a simple game, but with a lot of complexity to it that you can get into if you want to.
Correct.
Cool. Yep. That's a great way to define it then. Okay, so it's been amazing having you here. I don't know if you want to have to do some closing thoughts or just say where people can find you on the internet in order to see all the stuff that you have going on. And again, we will have the game linked down there in the description as well for everyone to go grab and go play some games and adventures.
Again, I'm Andy of Pandion Games. You can find us at pandiongames.com. We have a Discord server, which you can find at pandiongames.com/Discord. You can find Midnight Muscadines at pandiongames.com/Muscadines. That will always take you to the latest place to see news or purchase it or anything like that. And then we're on Blue Sky mostly, but you can also find us on all the social media platforms, always under Pandion Games. We lucked out and we're able to secure that on every single platform. So just search for us, you'll find us. And thank you very much for having me on. This has been a blast. I've really enjoyed it.
It's been amazing, and I'm looking forward to playing more of your games and discovering what you have ahead of you as well. Thank you again, Andy Boyd from Pandion Games, for joining me in this interview. If you enjoyed hearing about all these games, make sure to go to the website and grab some copies and reviews. There's also a Midnight Muscadines game jam going on right now, allowing all kinds of content created for it that will be going on for quite a while, to be honest. Keep that in mind if you have some wild ideas inspired by the game. That has been everything for this video. My name is Tomás Jiménez Rioja, and you can find everything about me in tomasjimenezrioja.com. Make sure to do all the YouTube stuff like liking, subscribing, clicking the bell icon, and just leaving me a comment down below about which game you'll maybe like to see me cover or talk about in more detail. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you some other time.